Hi guys, so we have just gone over the morphing shapes exercise. I want to show you moving a shape along a path. We covered this in class, so I just want to give you another go at it and something that you can record and see back and forth. So we're going to click on New Project. We'll say New Composition. We have the same default settings as we had before, 1920 by 1080, 24 frames per second, 24 frame rate, and 10 seconds long. I'm going to call this animating on a path dash my name. Use your name. We'll click OK. And we have a new composition. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is this pen tool. So you can press G on your keyboard to pull up the pen tool. I'm not going to change the fill and stroke so you can see how it looks at first. So if I zoom in, we can click, and if I click and hold, I can drag another curved point. If I didn't, so let's start again, click and click, it'll draw just straight lines. So I'm not clicking and holding on those. You can press backspace to undo. So I'm going to click and hold, click and hold. And here at this point, what I want to do is change the fill to black, or you can change it to none. I want the stroke to be there. We don't need the stroke, we just need this purple path. So if I click on my point, I can keep adding to it. Let's put a loop on there. Okay, that seems pretty interesting. Let's make that loop a bit bigger. Oops. We'll add a point. Okay. And feel free to smooth out these curves however you want to. That seems pretty fun. Let's go with that. So this is our first path. We're going to name it. We'll go to this section down here. We'll right click, say rename, and we'll call it path. All right, next I'm going to draw out a shape. Don't have this selected while you draw out the shape. Click down here to deselect the path. Now we're going to draw a shape. I'm going to choose the polygon tool. I'm going to set my fill to pink. Doesn't matter. And we're going to draw out a shape. I'm going to hold shift while I do. That's going to orient it up, and it's also going to lock it so it is equilateral on all sides. I'm going to set the alignment to the center. I'm going to change the points to 3 so it's a triangle. And I'm going to change the anchor point. So if you saw before, the anchor point is down here. I'm going to move it up to the top actually. So if I hold control, you can lock it to that top point. And that should be enough. So I'm going to click my pointer and click off. Let's go ahead and rename this triangle. All right. Now what we need to do is orient this triangle along the path. So what we need to do, similar to the morph part from before, we're going into contents, shape, and path 1. So now we have this path here. All we have to do is open the path and set our first keyframe by clicking the stopwatch. So we have that keyframe down here. I'm going to do Control-C to copy that, Command-C if you're on a Mac. Now I can close that. We're going up to the triangle. We're going to transform, position. We'll start the stopwatch. While we're here, we're going to click Control-V, and that's going to input these 4 points as our points for our shape to follow. So now if I scrub through the timeline, it's following that path. All right, the next thing I want to do, I'm going to click on my triangle, right click it, and we're going to go to Transform, Auto Orient. So it's Transform, Auto Orient. we're going to say orient along path and click OK. So now this triangle should be following our path. Okay, so that's our first part. Something else I want to show you is if you scale these points, you can move these to the right and you can see that it squeezes it or stretches it. That's going to change your timing. That can be really useful. So if you wanted it to be a little bit slower, maybe you want it to take the full 10 seconds to get all the way around this path. So now it's going really, really slow. Maybe you want it to take 5 seconds to go along that path. So we'll scrub it back. And now it's taking everything a bit shorter. You can move these individual points, so maybe you want these to be spaced a bit differently. You want it to get here faster and here slower. That's still pretty fast right there. And the reason for that, if you look really closely, you see all of these little dots, and it's spending not so much time to travel across here. So you can see it has about 10 dots, so it's traveling across much faster. If I squeeze this in even further, it's saying it's taking 4 frames to get up to this first key pose. So it should be really fast in this part. We can slow it down and give it more frames, so more time to reach that point. If I press play, it's a little bit smoother and calmer. So now when it gets here, we want to give that more frames. Oops. And so as you see these get a little bit tighter, that's saying that it's taking a much more time to get to that section and to get through that section. So it's still kind of quick and jiggity, but you can see that we can have a little bit more control over it that way. And this last point, we'll set it to the end. That's looking a little bit more even. We can also add points to our path. So if we go back to the pen tool, you see that little plus icon that pops up when we're on our shape? That can give us another control point so that we can squeeze that in or out for this section right here. So we'll say we want it to get to our next point kind of mildly, about the same time that it takes it to get to this first point. And then here it's still quite fast. So we can move this around. I'm going to hold Control and, Alt. Nope. On the pen tool. Yeah. Okay, that's going to let me change my shape a little bit. And now I can click and drag. Oops. Maybe. Here we go. Oh, I don't want to edit the path. I want to edit the path of the triangle. The original path is not important to us anymore. So in fact, we could go here and click delete on our keyboard to get rid of it, because all we need is this path that the triangle is following on. Another thing that we can do is change this anchor point. So instead of it being on the triangle itself, or on the tip of the triangle, we can change it so that it's on the center of the triangle. So that might look like doing this. It doesn't look like we can change that actually. Let's do. I think so. Now that we've already started working with our path, we aren't able to change that direction anymore. Let's see what else we can change though. We can change the size of our triangle still, so we can adjust it like this. since our scale hasn't been turned on by clicking on this stopwatch, it's not going to be changing size from the animation. Let's say we did want it on, so maybe we want it small, and then we want it to get maybe we want it to get more long and narrow here. So we can see as it follows through, it starts to stretch out into this long pointed shape, and then it spins around and it reaches its path. I think I want that to be a little bit quicker than it is. If I hold Alt, it's going to break this curve so that I can control these handles independently of one another. So let's try it again. Value. It's still pretty slow. Let's move this part a little bit closer. And one more time. That looks good. Alrighty. And then lastly, I do want this point to take me all the way off. So let's go into our position here. And we'll give it another point. And let's see how that looks. That way it's all the way off the screen. And then it feels like when it repeats, it's coming back in from the side. All right. So let's go ahead and save this. We'll do File, Save As. It's going to be called Animating on a Path dash your name. And I'm going to save mine to the desktop. And then we'll do File and Export, and to Adobe Media Encoder. And that's our animation right here. I want to change where it's saving it to. I want it to go to the desktop. I don't need to rename it. We can click Save. And then we can click Play. And it's going to export out our shape. Alrighty. So now on the desktop, I can see my new animation. And so now I have the video file of my triangle following its path. So let's go back to Moodle, and we're going to click Edit Submission. And we already have this file in here. I'm going to click and drag it from the desktop, Animating on a Path, into my submission. So now I should have both of them. I'll click Save Changes. That's all I needed for in class. And I'm going to show you a few more examples in a minute. I'd love for you to turn those in too. This is the main part that I'm looking for. Again, this is not for a grade. I just want to see that you are understanding the assignment. Thanks guys. See you in the next video.